I'd like you to imagine that there is a balloon floating right in front of you. And there's a string hanging down from the bottom of that balloon. And as it floats up in front of you, I want you to take your right hand, do it with me, and take hold of that string. And as you take hold of it, you feel that gentle tug of the helium balloon lifting your hand, lifting you up. A gentle pulling, continuing to lift your hand. You're holding onto that string. It's lifting, look up at it. It's lifting you so much that you need to step up and rise out of your seat. Keep looking up at that balloon. Well done, well done. Get that blood flowing. And while you do it, look up at that balloon. And it's lifting, lifting, continuing to lift, continuing to pull you upwards. And consider this. This is not just an imaginary balloon. This is the weight of your preconceptions about change, your fears, the things that you might be worried about, the risks, the doubts, all of it. So, look up at that balloon. And with me, I want you to take a deep breath and let it go. And as it ascends, let it take with it all of those risks, all of those things that are bothering you, all of those things that are getting in your way. And as you sit down, carry with you that openness, let it go. Because sometimes in the pursuit of our potential, our goals, our aspirations, we have to release and we have to surrender to the unfamiliar to propel ourselves to new heights. Change is the heartbeat of life. It surrounds us. It's happening whether we like it or not. It's happening at an unprecedented and increasing pace, driven by the technologies that are rewriting our future. And we all know that. We all feel that, especially those of us that are working in the tech world. Things are changing, and it's often said, but it is true. The one constant we have is change. The one thing you can rely on is change. So today, I want to talk to you about embracing change to unlock your potential. Because we need this skill, not only this skill. This is an essential thing for us to develop, to not only survive, to not only adapt or respond, but to truly thrive today and the future, whatever you want to achieve. And if you want to achieve your potential, if you want to unlock your potential, you have to thrive in this environment. So I'm going to talk to you today about how we can go there. Navigating change is challenging, and it's repeated all the time. And what does it really mean? Well, before I get to that, I want to transport you to a wet November day in the Netherlands. I don't know if there's anyone out there. Have we got any Dutch in the audience today? Oh, we got one. We've got one. Goedemorgen. So, I was in lovely Lelystad, maybe you know it, and picture this wintry scene. A light rain was falling. Around and about, the fields were bare from the autumn harvest, and in front of me, this vast body of water. Now, that day is etched on my mind. I can remember it so clearly as I arrived in a minibus with a bunch of my colleagues and stepped out to see these graceful yachts bobbing on the water and the wind blowing the reeds in front of me. so picturesque. But I remember this day because I was there to learn to sail. And I'd never done that before. Quite a daunting task. But there I was with my colleagues learning to sail. So I quickly found myself, as you can see, dressed up in some borrowed sailing attire, not my usual outfit. They didn't have any boots that fit me, so I don't know if you can see in the photo, but I had to wear my trusty trainers and climb aboard this boat. And I then discovered not only were we learning to sail, but actually we were going to have a race, and we had 45 minutes to learn. It sounds simple. Navigate to a buoy, maneuver around it, make your way back. Easy. Maybe if you know how to sail. Not if you're a beginner like me. At this point, I was not entirely sure which side was port and which side was starboard, let alone how to command this boat. And I found myself the captain of the boat. You can see it on the photo. And I stood at the helm of this boat, looking at my wonderful colleagues who were looking back at me very expectantly, waiting for some instructions for us to go and win this race. And I'm sure you can imagine, my mind was racing. Do I have the skills and the training to navigate this boat? Well, clearly not. At this point, half an hour on the water, still don't know which side of the boat is which. Can I command this 9-meter yacht to yield to the wind and go in the direction I want it to go? Not really sure. Then comes a fun one. Will I accidentally cut off my hand or foot? Because the sailing instructor had told me a number of times by this point, do not get stuck in the rope because you will lose your foot or your hand. And I was petrified of that eventuality. And then lastly, a silly but simple one. Can I even see this buoy that I'm supposed to navigate to from where I'm standing at the wheel? My doubts were huge. My mind was clouded, and I was questioning whether I could do this. And I was afraid. But I took a breath. I took a deep breath. And I said to myself, well, this could actually be fun. Maybe I'm going to learn something. By the end of this, I might be able to tell which side of the boat is which. And maybe I'm going to discover a new passion and hobby, and I'll be sailing every weekend from now on. So I took another deep breath, and I rallied my inner sailor spirit, and I looked out to my crew, and I gave them the instructions to go with a surprising amount of confidence and a bit of humor, and off we went. And in the moments that followed, we transformed into a united team. We all leaned into the unknown. We were all learning as we went. We were supporting each other. We were our own support network. We were lifting each other. And it was inspiring and amazing to be part of. We made it to the buoy. We made it around. And we made it back across the finish line. And I'm pleased to say we actually won the race. But that wasn't what was important. And I said the day was etched on my mind. When I reflect, it was etched on my mind because of those moments, because of the elation of facing the fear and the risk and the doubts and making a step forward, because of uniting as a team together, growing and learning together. It was inspiring. It was something that I wanted to be part of. And that's what I remember about that day. And life and leadership and work is a little bit like sailing a boat sometimes. The wind might be gentle, it might be a tempest. When you sail a boat, you have to set a course, plan strategically, work as a team. All of these things are the same things that we need to do at work. That destination, to get there, requires resilience, unwavering resilience. That destination, it anchors us in purpose. And just like the boat or the sails respond to the wind to take the boat forward, we have to harness the power of change and opportunity to propel ourselves forward, to move ourselves forward towards those goals and aspirations that we want to achieve. So we're ready to unlock our potential. Let's talk about what that really means. In the words of Abraham Maslow, in any given moment, we have two options: to step forwards into growth or to step back into safety. Now, that's easy to say. It's a lot harder to do it. In that moment on the boat, I had to step forward into growth. But how do we make that a practice that is part of our everyday life? How do we make that consistent? Well, before I tell you the answer to that, and before we talk about that, I want to address a really important part. Change and fear of the unknown and stepping into new things is scary, and it is difficult, and we have to embrace those difficult feelings. So it's very much a choice to have to step forward, because it is much easier to stay in safety. And when you're thinking about that, when you're thinking about stepping forward, what often happens is we have a fight or flight response. I know you all know about that, but think about it for a second. Your cortisol levels rise. You focus in on the threat. And you might have other physiological things happening in your body. Your heart rate might be rising. This is the fear system. Narrow focus. And when we talk about growth and growth mindset and change and opportunity, we need to switch from seeing that thing as a threat to an opportunity. We need to step from fear into our seeking mode. We need to access our creativity. We need to widen our peripheral vision. We need to experiment, play, learn, grow. And that's what stepping forward into growth is. Now, I guarantee you will have all felt this inadvertently, so I'm going to give you a real example of something, and I'm sure you will be able to identify with this. Have you ever been in a meeting where maybe it's not quite going how you want it to go, and you get asked a really difficult question? Or perhaps you're in an interview and you get asked a challenging question, and in that moment, you're thinking, right, what's the answer? Your thoughts are running through your head, you're focusing, and you're answering that question. And I'm sure, in your experience, you all gave a really great answer. And then you leave the room, and you think, oh, thank goodness that's over, done. And 20 minutes later, you're having a cup of coffee and you're relaxed, or maybe you're talking to your friend and you're saying what happened. Your cortisol levels have dropped. Like I said, you're more relaxed. A few more thoughts going through your head, and then ping. The perfect answer comes to you, and you just think to yourself, oh my goodness me, why didn't I say that in the room? I can't believe I didn't say that. That would have been so much better. I've certainly been there. That's the difference between being in the fear system and being in the seeking system. 20 minutes later, when that cortisol has dropped, your peripheral vision has widened. You've connected the dots. You've input other information. You've accessed other parts of your memory, and you've come up with a really good answer. And what I'm talking to you about today is how do you consciously move into that space as much as possible, and how do you cultivate a practice around that? So, growth mindset, buzzword, we've all heard it, lots of things have been written about it. I want to simplify it to 3 key elements: curiosity, vision, and self-awareness. If we're going to grow, if we're going to see these opportunities, if we're going to change, we need to have that curiosity, that open-mindedness. We need to gather in information, perspectives from all sorts of different places to help us see things differently. We need to talk to people. We need to read things. Perhaps there are other industries doing things that are applicable to your industry. You just need to think about how they would apply. There's lots of ideas out there, and there's lots of important perspectives. I think this is incredibly important. I think this is the driver of creativity, of innovation, and in our world, in the tech world, that's so important. This is so important to me that I spend a significant amount of time talking to customers who come from different backgrounds in different countries, talking to couriers, talking to restaurants, talking to our customer service agents about what they're experiencing, what customers are telling them. Because all of these different perspectives and how they understand it help me to understand how to serve them better, how to bring the right things together, and how to solve their problems or reduce their friction. And I think this is so critical that at Just Eat Takeaway, we've actually created a program so that every single person in product and engineering, no matter who they are, can go out and do the same. We have a program that takes them out to do courier shifts delivering food, to visiting our restaurant and grocery partners, going to customer service and sitting on the phone and experiencing the reality, and many, many more things. Because I think this is important, and I want to create the opportunity for creativity within my department and within my business. Now, vision is your why. You need to be clear about this. This isn't just a justification or a short-term goal. This is your driving motivation of why you do what you do, where you want to be, and what your aspirations are. They need to be audacious. Consider for a minute what they might be for you. Maybe it's the career pinnacle, a specific role. Maybe it's mastering a new skill. Maybe it's taking a leap into something completely different. Maybe it's creating a nurturing home environment or something else entirely. Whatever it is, it's personal to you. It's not to be judged by anybody else, but it has to be that driving motivation for you. It has to be the reason why you will face these challenges and overcome them. And you need to decide what that is. And then lastly, but absolutely not least, is self-awareness. I cannot overstate this one. If we want to grow, we need to reflect on why we're triggered by certain things, why we respond the way we do, why things feel difficult. As we reflect on that and think about how we respond, we can start to grow, we can start to change. It's really important, because change isn't about changing the people around you and aligning them to your goal. It starts with you. You have the power to reflect. You have the power to change your mindset, to shift your mindset towards this growth, away from fear into growth. Now, this is the theory, but we need some tangible steps, right? So I'm going to share with you these three. These are 3 steps that I personally find are very helpful in cultivating a growth mindset. Because by the way, I'm still working on this too. It takes constant work, constant reflection. As we grow, we have to reassess. So, my tips, my principles. Listen more, speak less. If we are always talking, then we are not gathering diverse perspectives. We are not taking in new information. We're not assessing and learning. We're putting things out into the world. Now, it's not just about speaking. It's about reading, watching, whatever it is. But we need to be taking in as much information as we can, many different perspectives, that helps us with that curiosity piece, that open-mindedness. I would summarize this one as seek to understand before seeking to be understood. 2, build a support network. This is incredibly important. This has served me very well over the years. When you go on a change journey or when you aspire to something big and you take those steps along the way, you will have wins, but you will have some low points, some dark times when it feels really difficult and where you wonder how on earth you're ever going to overcome this thing. And you feel like you've tried everything. That's the moment where this support network is key. Find the people who will lift you up in those dark moments, but who will also celebrate your victories with you when you achieve them. And not only that, you provide that to other people. You have the opportunity to create a positive ripple effect around you by doing the same, by lifting others, by praising their efforts, by helping them see, and by celebrating their victories too. That network can provide you with advice, inspiration, whatever you need is critical, because change is a bit of a team sport, it's not an individual thing. And the last one is valuing successes and failures. We should celebrate the successes. We should celebrate the wins. They're important. But sometimes you take a risk and it doesn't pay off. Sometimes you try something and it doesn't work out the way you thought it would. But it's an important learning step for you. Next time you're faced with that situation, you've got valuable insights into how you might approach it. And if we don't recognize those moments as well as the wins, then we aren't truly living a growth mindset, because we're not praising ourselves for learning, we're only praising ourselves for winning. And that's the antithesis of what a growth mindset is. And you can do this for other people as well. Create that positive culture around you. When you see the effort going in, when you see that people have learned something, they may not have succeeded, but they've really learned, you too can lift them in that moment. You too can praise that learning, and you can create the culture around you of experimentation, of taking risks, of learning, growing, and ultimately becoming something bigger, better, increasing your impact, unleashing your potential. And I think it's important to say that you don't need to be in a position of leadership to action these things. These are principles that anyone can live and breathe. These are principles that every single one of you can put into action, and that you can talk about with the people around you, share and role model this behavior. So I thought to myself, well, that's all very well, Jess. This is the growth mindset, this is the theory, here are your steps. But it still feels quite hard. Something still gets in the way. And as I was writing this talk, I was reminded of an experience earlier this year, for which the photo will become clear. So I was lucky enough to be on holiday with my family earlier this year. Lovely, relaxing holiday, glorious weather, playing on the beach, swimming in the sea, so far, so fun. And then I found myself agreeing to go ziplining with my 2 young children excitedly leading the way. There I was, putting on the helmet, which you can see, getting strapped into a harness and climbing up this really steep path onto the side of a mountain. I say mountain, that's how it felt to me. It was more of a hill. We reached the canopy of this forest. My heart was racing. I was questioning my sanity as I saw this little concrete block, and I climbed up onto it, clipped on my harness onto the line, and my toes were kind of curled over the edge. Next to me was this lovely, smiling guide saying to me, "You're going to love it, it's going to be great." And I'm standing there thinking, I can't even see the end of this zip line. I don't even know where I'm going, and I've got to just throw myself off here? Are you kidding me? I'm not going to enjoy this. And I looked across to my children, and I thought, well, I've got to put on a brave face for them. So, much like the sailing, I took a deep breath, and literally and figuratively, I jumped into the unknown and whizzed through the canopy. And the guide was right. It was really fun. And this time, I did enjoy it, and I managed to do 8 of those that day. But why am I telling you this story? As a parent, your risk profile changes. You worry about keeping your children safe. You worry about what will happen if you're not there. And there I am on the side of a mountain, about to throw myself into the unknown. That doesn't really seem to match with the things that I'm worrying about. And the same thing can happen in work. As we grow in our careers, as we gain experience, the risks start to feel bigger. As we get more responsibility, the failures, the risk of the failure seems to grow and become bigger and more scary and more difficult. It's the same thing. And so it's really important, when you've got that fear of the unknown, that you remind yourself, that you assure yourself that you can do this. Using your network, taking in different perspectives, all of the things that I've talked about, they will help you get there. Get that advice and find your connection to your vision, your why. I find it really helpful to have a mantra in work that connects me to my why, my ambitions and my aspirations. In that moment, the mantra or the thing I was telling myself was, don't pass on your fears to your children. Let them live a fulfilling life without being terrified of being on the side of a mountain. So I put that brave face on. So find ways to tackle the fears, break it down. The second thing is about limiting your aspirations. Sometimes that gets in the way. Sometimes we don't believe that we deserve or can achieve those big, lofty goals. But I'm telling you that you can. You've just got to think about where you want to get, and you've got to make that vision work for you. You've got to connect to it. So don't limit your aspirations. And on top of that, if you've got aspirations, think about the voices that you listen to. The voices that tell you whether you can or can't do something. Who are you listening to? Are they an expert? Do they know your industry or what you're trying to achieve? Do they even know you? Maybe. We can have a tendency to overweight the negative voices. Don't do that. Remind yourself that you are on a journey and that you are taking steps to unleash your maximum potential, and that everything you're facing is in service of your aspirations. Find the voices that lift you up. Find the people who can give you the advice to help you shape those aspirations. And lastly, do not get in your own way. This is one that's completely within our own control, but we so often do. We so often get in our own way. So ensure that you are your most significant ally rather than your greatest adversary. Change is inevitable. Embrace transformation. I hope today, through what I've talked about, adopting a growth mindset, practicing it on a regular basis, building that practice, championing yourself, driving towards your aspirations, I hope that's left you feeling motivated, excited, and ready to go off and pursue them. Think of the butterfly transforming, the journey that it goes on. As Maya Angelou said, we delight in the beauty of the butterfly, but rarely admit the changes it has gone through to achieve that beauty. Your journey, just like the butterfly, is important. It is valuable. So make the choice to grow, to see the challenges not as roadblocks, but opportunities to pursue a new you, a new skill, something you want. Opportunity. It's so powerful. And if you do this, if you create this practice and you pursue these opportunities, you will unleash that potential, and you will unleash the potential of those around you as they see you rise, as you create that ripple effect around you. So I just want to leave you with one quote from an author who was one of my favorite childhood authors, who created strong female characters to inspire us. I am not afraid of storms, for I am learning to sail my ship. Thank you.